From the Clark Ford Studio in Oxford, Mississippi, MBW Digital proudly presents the Oxford Exxon Podcast.
I'd say thanks for tuning in, but why am I going to give you a round of applause for something you're supposed to do, to be frank?
And now, here are your hosts, Chase Parham.
And broadcast school has really paid off.
And Neal McCready.
I deserve to be on TV.
Welcome to this Friday edition of the Oxford Exxon Podcast. Chase Parham and Neal McCready. Clark Ford Studio this morning. We'll answer a few of you guys' questions you have on the message board. Also hit a couple other topics, and I'm going to talk a little Ole Miss band today. I sat down with Brett Bartlett and Jeff Roberson earlier in the week to discuss the fundraiser that Ole Miss is, or the band is currently doing as it's a private thing with the help of the foundation to help their practice field, to build a new director's stand, and frankly, I was amazed at what the current setup is for Ole Miss. I have not been down to that area of campus in a long time, and it's something that's much needed. I will get that interview to you here in a little bit on the podcast, and then also as I say there, I'll post some of the stuff online for you to see what's going on there. As it was again pretty shocking to me, but we'll do that. Answer a lot of questions, and just kind of talk to close the work week here on the Oxford Exxon Podcast, brought to you every single day by the Oxford Exxon. Highway 6 West in Oxford. The daiquiris, $3.99 for the cheapest one, 44 ounces for the largest. They got a lot of different sizes. That temperature coming back up, really raising today back away from what we've had earlier in the week, so take advantage of that. Or maybe on a Friday, you don't want to cook tonight, pick up some ribs on the way home, wet or dry. They'll be ready to go for you. Call ahead. They'll be wrapped up and ready to go there with the Oxford Exxon. Again, coming to you from the Clark Ford Studio.
We are. Clark Ford is in Amory, Mississippi, 662-257-1900 is the number. Call it. Ask for Corey Clark. Tell him what you're looking for. He'll send you a quote within 15 minutes in business hours. It is truly that simple. It can be the easiest car buying experience that you have ever had, or you can use it as a baseline for yourself moving forward. Either way, you're going to find that the deal that you get from Clark Ford was right to the bottom line from the very beginning, very likely the best deal that you're going to get throughout the process, and then afterwards you get a great product. You get great service after the sale. Corey wants to be your truck guy. He wants to be your car guy. People say, what does that mean? Call the number. Ask for a quote and find out. 662-257-1900.
So we'll dive into some questions. Will anything on your mind before we get started? Or are you
there's a lot on my mind, but I don't know.
Not in the mood? Or we'll get to it? What is it?
I don't know. I think we'll get to it. I'm having a physical pain day, so I'm trying.
Physical pain day.
I did not sleep well. I was in so much pain last night that I kept tossing and turning, and I almost got up at like 2:30 and just say to hell with it.
But you're done at that point. If you get up at 2:30, you're not going back to sleep.
No, you're not.
You're done.
I was contemplating getting up.
That's right on the cusp. Anything after about 3, I probably do just get up. 2:30 makes me go, well, I mean.
Yeah, I looked at the clock and I said, what do I want to do here? Because there's 3 more hours before Rizzo the dog's stomach alarm goes off.
Can you move locations and then fall back asleep? Because one of my best things is if I go to the couch, I'll sleep great for like 2 or 3 hours. Like just the change of venue puts me back to sleep.
I don't know. We got a new mattress, hard as a brick, which is good.
Yeah.
And so if I go, and I might be just kind of suffering, because when I was in Chicago, we were there, 4 nights? Yeah. When I was there, I slept on the pullout.
Okay.
And I think I'm paying for that. I think it's just now the bill's coming in from sleeping on the pullout for 4 nights.
Okay. We'll jump into questions a little bit. If you got nothing, or we'll get to it. You can stop me whenever you'd like. It's your podcast too. So we'll get to it. Diamond Reb 1083 opens us up. What are you about the reading right now? Or the next 2 to 3 on the nightstand that are up next? I am following Neal's lead. Once I went to the show, I just cracked Hamilton yesterday for the first time.
It's a fantastic book.
It's a weighty tome. It's about 820 pages.
It is that.
It is
that.
It's you get it in the mail and it's like, yeah, okay, I got the paperback, and then the package is like 10 inches wide, and I'm like, oh my God, like this is a book, but
it's a deep read.
It doesn't look, though, as boring, and no offense to that profession, as a lot of historians who write books. It looks like it at least as much as an 800-page book moves with some pace.
Well, as you know, because they've made an award-winning musical from it, he had an entertaining, interesting life. His life was full of highs, full of lows, pretty fast-paced, and he was a very opinionated person who was not afraid to express those opinions. And he lived with his hair on fire. So he's fascinating. Absolutely one of the most fascinating figures in American history. His relationship with Washington and all that is just...
And getting his due at such a late period, you know what I mean? Like, it's not known as one of the... We've talked about this, but not known as one of the 2 or 3 most central elements to it when, the National Bank doesn't go like that, and this thing never shakes out the way it shakes.
Oh, listen, I tell my kids this all the time. And why we don't teach it this way... Oh, and here comes...
Here we go.
Here we go.
All right.
Dear history teachers at high schools, don't yell at me. Why we don't teach that this country's a freaking miracle is beyond me. Why we don't teach we had no business winning that war. No business at all. Even with the British, they were coming off of a big war. They were somewhat disinterested.
They say their heart was not fully in it.
And even then, we had no business winning it. And damn near didn't win it, except we had a handful of really smart decisions and kind of lucky decisions, and the French helped us, and we closed them out.
Yeah. Hamilton dying at only 47 years old. Yeah. Got a lot done. Really, and got a lot done way before those last few years even, because...
That's what I mean. He lived with his hair on fire. But we don't teach, and then we don't really teach what it was all about either. And I'm not getting political here, but there's a disconnect. I hate to be the guy that says the founding fathers would be rolling over in their graves, but they really would. If you brought Washington and those people back right now and showed them where everything is, they'd say, I busted my ass for that? I'm convinced of it. They would not be happy.
It amazes me, in a very positive way, how many things that they put into existence in the 1780s and 90s that do hold up today from a standpoint of government. That we're this far in advance, and still at the end of the day, governing is governing, people are people, you know what I mean? So many of the things, we've had to, it has to be elastic, and there's been times that things had to be moved, obviously. But the basic elements have been found a way to survive for 200 never how many years at this point. It's fascinating.
It's incredible. When you go to Washington and you go read the Declaration of Independence and you look at the Bill of Rights and all the things that they did, it's incredible. I always think about when you read the Declaration of Independence and you look down at the bottom of it and you see all of the signatures. The Hancock signature is so famous. Get away from that and read them all. When you signed that thing, what you basically signed was, hey, if we lose, I'm a dead man.
Yeah.
And if we lose, my family's dead. It's over. There aren't a lot of people that are willing to make that bet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
John Hancock became really famous because he just wrote his name big.
But he wrote it real big, and by writing it real big, it was a big middle finger.
Yeah.
That's what it was. It was a, yep, I'm in 100%.
Yeah. I'm going to make it where you can read this.
Yeah, there won't be any, you won't have to pull out your magnifying glass to say, who is this Hancock fellow?
Yeah.
It's remarkable. We don't teach that. We gloss over it.
So what are you reading?
I have started.
You have a book over here by you.
I did. I started. I went in Birmingham. I went to Barnes & Noble. I had some time to kill. And they had a lot of books on the clearance rack. And I've always wanted to read A Gentleman in Moscow by Amor Towles. I know it's an old book. It's a award-winning New York Times bestseller.
Well, I mean, Hamilton's from the early 2000s.
Yeah.
It just got picked back up by everybody after
I've just never gotten around to reading it. And so I almost started it last night at 2:30, but it's in the on deck circle. And
Okay. Yeah, I've got some other fiction stuff that I'll get to at some point, but
I've been reading a lot of Greg Iles, and I think
Yeah.
I've just about exhausted
You need
his
something
library.
else.
Yeah, Greg, if you're listening,
write something new.
write something new, pretty please.
Continuing Diamond Reb's questions, when's the last time Neal ate something that was relatively unhealthy?
In Chicago, I did have the squid ink pasta with the seafood. It was probably relatively unhealthy. I knew that we were going to go to that establishment that evening, and so I planned for it all day. I had my protein bar that morning and did not eat another bite until that night.
I've only had the squid ink one time, and I was not overly impressed, and I kind of want to try it again. I had it at Dominica in New Orleans, and it was fine.
Yeah, I've had it 2 or 3 different places in Chicago, and I've always really liked it.
Really?
Yeah.
Go to late night snack when you actually snacked. Back in the day, it was like ice cream with Nutella and caramel sauce and maybe some fruit and some nuts and a cherry and.
Yeah, I can't do that. I mean, if I were going to go to it would probably just be. I mean, the only time I ever have anything late night is I might have a couple of squares of dark chocolate. That's really about it. I mean, if you told me that I could cheat and not feel bad about it, and it would not go to any part of my body, and I wouldn't wreck what I'm trying to do, some vanilla ice cream with some limoncello and the little biscotti cookies.
Yeah.
That would hit the spot.
I keep dark chocolate if I feel like I just need something in my mouth, if you will, to kind of put me to bed and whatever. If I feel hungry and I'm like, okay, I need to eat something just to be full to go to sleep, I'll usually grab some beef jerky is what I'll do. I'll keep beef jerky around for that.
I keep a lot of turkey jerky and chicken jerky around.
Beef would be fine.
Yeah, and there's some beef, but
okay.
For whatever reason, the turkey jerky and the chicken jerky, I feel less guilty about it. I'm being honest. I mean, I know I'm psychotic.
A little bit, yeah. Okay.
But I've dropped a few. I'm getting closer to the goal.
I still contend you could have eaten pork and dropped a few too, but
maybe.
Also, a shout out to the podcast. He said, listen to Wednesday's pod while getting a root canal. That might be the first time we've had that happen. So
I've heard sometimes that our podcast is as bad as a root canal.
Yeah, we had some very angry comments on Facebook at us yesterday.
Really?
You commented to one or two of them.
Oh, I did. I didn't know. I didn't realize there were several. I knew there was
there were two.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, two different people.
Well, the one person that says, I mean, listen, two things. We've got to come up with the code here. If someone's got a gun to your head making you listen, send me some sort of a code, and I will call the police. Because I'm pro your freedom. Number two, in July, when we openly tell you there's not a whole hell of a lot to talk about, and when one of the biggest stories in our country right now is happening right here in this town, I don't know, I kind of felt justified talking about it. And given the feedback, and I haven't looked at the numbers, maybe you have, given the feedback that we've gotten, most people seem appreciative of the fact that we've talked about it.
The feedback has been good. I have not really scanned our numbers. Best guess, and we could possibly get an official update on the Ali Costial case. I have no idea. None.
What would even an official update be at this point?
More autopsy results, potentially.
Yeah.
Ballistics reports, I guess.
My guess is that
something DNA or forensic related.
It will be some sort of a preliminary hearing.
Well, the bond hearing still has to happen at some point.
Right.
Some people have already expected it to happen, and it hasn't, to my knowledge. So
we're told he's going to plead not guilty.
Well, I mean, Faris said that.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah. That came from his attorney.
Okay.
His attorney said, at this time, we will plead not guilty.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that happened.
I can't imagine that he has any chance at bond.
Scanning numbers, yeah, those two podcasts were the largest we've had this month.
There you go.
So, again.
It's almost like we kind of have some degree of a clue as to what we're doing after all these years.
We've done 2,000 or 3,000. I haven't come up with an official number. So, all right. Next question. Are the KAs going to get a timeout? Referencing to Kalpa Alpha. Coming out in the middle of all
this. Ladies and gentlemen, Chase
week.
Parham.
You don't want to go first?
No, I don't. I mean, I have some thoughts, but
right,
I'm ready for you to stick your neck out there for a minute.
Okay. So here's my deal. First, for people who have not been following this, comes out yesterday or day before. It's all running together this week.
Came out yesterday.
Jerry Mitchell was the author, the reporter on this.
You knew about it the day before.
I did. And so 2 active KA members, 1 former KA member, at some point took a picture in front of the Emmett Till sign in the Delta that had bullet holes in it, holding a shotgun and what appeared to be an AR-15.
And let's do this just for the sake of people that are listening who don't know who Emmett Till was.
Okay.
And those people exist.
An African-American who was killed violently.
During the Civil Rights
era. Yes,
during
the Civil Rights era, and how an all-male, all-white jury acquitted the killers.
There you go.
Is that good enough?
Good enough.
So
around Indianola, is that right? Somewhere in there?
Somewhere over there, yeah.
Okay.
And this sign has been desecrated over the years. It's been shot and messed up multiple times over the years.
Which is bizarre.
It is. To my knowledge, and I'm pretty sure on this, these students did not shoot the sign. They simply took the picture with guns in front of the sign. I mean, that is an important designation.
It is. Although the holding of the guns is not the best look.
I don't know. Nobody really knows that I've talked to when the picture was actually taken. It hit Instagram in March, and then the reporter Jerry got it sometime this month, I assume, because it came out this week. And I've got a lot of thoughts here. Probably should have written down some stuff, frankly, because I'm just kind of scatter shooting. But first off, just stupid idiots.
I talk about hand raise guy a lot.
Should be punished to whatever extent they deserve to be punished. Period. They've gotten kicked out of KA, as they should have. Again, the third one wasn't a member, and there had to be a fourth one because somebody took the photo. I guess the third one took the photo. Either way, yeah, there was 2 in the picture, right? Never mind.
I thought there were 3 in the picture.
There was. He was sitting down. So, yeah, there had to be a fourth person to take the photo. I don't know who that was. So
that person's really glad he
chose to be the photographer that day. Yeah. So hit social media in March, and I'm going to go here first, I think. And my thought is, at the end of the day, are they going to get a timeout? I don't think so. I think at the end of the day, are they going to punish 200-some-odd students over the actions of 3? Probably not. Had they shot the sign, whole different deal. We become violating federal property, all those type of things. I don't expect that here. Frankly,
I still don't know how you could justify punishing all of the other people who didn't do anything.
Well, right, it's my point.
Although if I'm in the fraternity today, I do question, is it smart for me to stay in the fraternity?
KA, and again, these kids deserve whatever comes to them. Yeah, it was stupid. It was so stupid. KA is a very easy target. They have Robert E. Lee as their spiritual founder, or whatever you want to call it. They did Old South for years. They no longer do that. They've cleaned up a lot of that stuff. They have progressed in positive ways. But as long as KA is a thing, they're going to deal with those connotations. That simply is what it is.
Sure, in many of the same ways that Ole Miss will always deal with anything. No matter how hard you try, it's always right there.
Here's my deal, too. I think that fraternities, and again, let's get some context here. Don't take me out of context.
The 3 boys in the picture, where are they from?
None of them are inside the state of Mississippi. They're all from out of state.
Okay.
Which is kind of where I'm going here. A couple different things.
I was trying to kind of throw you a curveball.
I know. This is not to say that everybody in-state as a student does not do stupid stuff, or there are not that, or that they're not great out-of-state students. That's not my point.
Sweeping assertions are never good.
Yeah, so just stay with me here. Don't be an idiot.
I'm with you.
I know, but I'm being careful.
I'm with you.
So here's my two problems. First, and this is not to remove blame from students or fraternities or anybody. Ole Miss, to my knowledge, investigated this in March. They found the picture, got the picture, investigated it in March, didn't find any actual laws had been broken, didn't tell KA about it, didn't send a Post-it note to the fraternity to tell them what was going on.
Really?
And if you just send something, and again, this is not making them unliable. That's not my point. My point is that at that point, you go, hey, why don't you go check so-and-so's Instagram? Go look at that for me. They kick those kids out right then and get ahead of it. They can do that thing. Whereas
so that when Jerry Mitchell calls, you can say, yeah, we heard about this in March.
3 months ago, they're gone. Peace.
Yeah.
Instead, Ole Miss, and it's a symptom of such a bigger problem. Ole Miss has this leadership void right now to where there's no common sense in so many different areas. There's no protection. There's no hand-raised guy. There's no voice to just do things that make so much sense and are so easy to do. And it is a symptom of the entire issue right now. It's why this chancellor situation is the biggest hire at Ole Miss in my lifetime, period, in my opinion.
Yeah.
To set a course for the next however long for this university that right now is just rudderless. There's no direction anywhere, or at least not in many places. Everywhere's too sweeping too. And it comes back to this point. Again, not saying all the out-of-state guys, in-state guys, whatever. But Ole Miss, a lot of times when these high-profile things happen, it's out-of-state kids. Again, a lot of out-of-state friends, good guys, love you. A lot of times it happens. It's out-of-state kids. Ole Miss, because of their out-of-state admission requirements, because of the difficulty for a lot of in-state kids in other states to get into those state schools, they navigate here. They navigate here. A lot of times there is a group that is not necessarily the most academically achieved that get in from out of state here. A lot of them come to Ole Miss knowing those connotations that we just referenced, thinking it's going to be this bastion where they can do all this dumb crap and all this stuff. And this is what permeates from this. They have to tighten up some extent of out-of-state qualifications, in my opinion, because at the end of the day, what kind of student do you want? Even if it drops enrollment a little bit, what kind of student do you want? Where do you want your students coming from? Because, look, yes, Ole Miss has to have out-of-state kids. That's not my point.
Of course.
But the way they're getting killed in-state right now, those in-state kids stay in the state. They become loyal alumni. They give money back. A lot of those kids from Texas or Georgia or wherever, they go back home and they're still Texas or Georgia fans. They're not giving you anything after the fact. They're just giving you twice the tuition money when they're here. And that's not enough. That's not the point right now. Ole Miss is failing in the areas that it's failing because alumni and money after the fact, in my opinion. And it's a lot of it really comes from who they're recruiting and how they're going about recruiting them and what kind of students they're bringing in, because they are getting a large segment of students that can't get into their own states, frankly, that have entitlement issues, and that it only takes a couple bad apples. Yes, everybody at Ole Miss is not bad. The majority are fantastic. That's not the point. The point is that they are allowing and helping more of the type of person that I'm mentioning into the school because of the way this thing works, in my opinion. And then because of, and again, I know a lot of advisors. I know a lot of people that are trying to do a lot of positive things with the fraternities because of kind of the barstool culture, because a lot of those things, these kids just get a little more and a little more and a little more. And the fraternities, these kids are attracted to fraternities. I'll put it that way even. I don't think the fraternity doesn't want that kind of kid, but I think they're attracted to some of the Greek system stuff. And I think that's why a lot of times when we see this, it's not only the out-of-state kid, it's the out-of-state kid that has rushed or pledged or is initiated in some of these Greek systems.
Yeah, you just put a lot on the table.
Okay.
We'll process it a minute. I've got multiple thoughts. I'm trying to decide how much. I will say this before we go to a break and pay some bills here. I do think the barstool culture is dangerous. And I've thought that for a long time.
It is giving publicity and popularity to a lot of sophomoric dumb stuff. And what it causes you to do, it's not that, look, college kids are dumb just in general. It raises the bar because they think they're getting publicity or notoriety out of it, if you will. I think it has exponentially raised the bar on what has become of all this.
I mean, look, 18 and 19-year-old boys have always been sort of stupid.
Of course. That's like some stuff that got reported that the Brandon Thiesfeld kid did yesterday. I went, okay, normal college kid. That's the stuff that you're actually kind of losing me a little bit when you report some of that.
Yeah.
Let's stick on task.
Except for this part. I don't remember, and I grew up pre-Barstool, I don't remember it being cool to be a sexist, being cool to be misogynistic. I don't remember that. And Barstool absolutely promotes that as cool.
Yeah.
They absolutely do. And it's not cool. It's been a rough week for Ole Miss from an image standpoint. Is that fair to everybody who goes to that school? Of course not. Is it fair to everybody who works there? Of course not. I do think it's been bad enough this week. And this is no shot at Larry Sparks. He appears to be doing a good job. I don't know him at all. But I do think at some point the university has to stand up a little bit and address this. It's almost like a State of the Union speech would be good right now.
Yeah.
I think the city has to address it. The video, everyone's focused on the video of Ali Castiel walking.
Hold that till after this, because I do kind of want to dovetail off that. Well, we'll come right back to that in a second. First, tell you about Community Mortgage, Oxford, Memphis, Soto County, and Chattanooga. All underwriting and processing is done in Memphis. You're getting local underwriting that understands your market, a leader in condo financing and the flow-down option, so you can lock in the current rate. But if rates go down before you close, you get the lower rate. Also, interest rates as low as they've been in about 2 years. So maybe time to buy, maybe time to refinance. You can find Jason at 662-234-2704 or JLOWE@communitymtg.com.
7 South Tailgating's the premier tailgating service provider at Ole Miss. Although they offer your standard tailgating services such as tent, table, and chair set up and breakdown. There's so much more. They'll set up, break down, store your own personal gear. You can rent from them. They offer cooler, ice, beverage services, TV, satellite, generator services, storage bins for supplies and decor, chandeliers, tablecloths, plates, cups, napkins, rope lighting, box fans, carpeting or hay for ground cover. They offer basically everything. So call them or go online today for a detailed quote customized to your specific needs. 662-321-1682 or visit 7southtailgating.com. Podcast also brought to you by Scoopers Pet Waste Removal, LLC. Everyone loves their pets, but no one loves stepping in their pet stuff and tracking that stuff back into your house. It's not good. Scoopers will go into your backyard, your apartment complex, your condominium, and they'll pick up what no one really wants to pick up. They'll do it for $10 a cleaning. They'll clean up your yard. They'll do it on your schedule, whether that's weekly, bi-weekly, or a one-time service. No contracts required. You can cancel at any time. If you have multiple dogs, it's just $2 for each additional dog. So if you own a home, a condo, or an apartment in Oxford and you'd like to deal with a lot less crap, call Scoopers 662-506-2754 or simply send them an email, scoopers.oxfordpetwaste@gmail.com to get your cleanings scheduled today. We're also brought to you by the Oxford Park Commission. They're currently registering for youth flag football and fall baseball season. Leagues are open for ages 6 to 12 in football, 6 to 15 in baseball. The cost to sign up for football is $50, while it's just $40 for the fall baseball. Each sport will be played at beautiful FNC Park. For more details, visit oxfordparkcommission.com. And we're brought to you by Oxford University Bank. OUB, locally owned and operated right here in Oxford. When you deposit money at OUB, that money and the vast majority of the bank's profits go right back into the Oxford community. OUB gives you the comfort of home, all the benefits the big mega banks provide, all the technology and products you can want, all with the personal touch. And when you call OUB, you speak directly with the live person. There's no 10 buttons to push. There's no 5 minutes to wait. OUB offers its customers the absolute best cash checking account. It's called Kasasa, and with Kasasa, OUB will pay customers 2.5% interest on their balances up to $50,000 and refund ATM fees nationwide. OUB also offers online bill pay and mobile check deposit using its online app. To learn more about OUB, check out liveoxfordbankoxford.com or call 662-234-6668. OUB is FDIC insured.
Go ahead.
I watched that video a lot yesterday. Everybody was focused on the sobriety or lack thereof of Ali Castiel, and that's not what caught my eye repeatedly because, quite frankly,
I'll be honest, that video was not compelling to the slightest to me because we know she went home around midnight. It showed her basically going home around midnight, and then whatever happened was after that point. That video had no consequence to anything to me.
To the case, none. Because, like you said, and listen, and I said this on the message board today. There's this hang up about, well, was she drunk? And that I think people are tying that to, was she pregnant? And if that's what you're tying it to, whatever, it doesn't matter anymore. And was she drunk? I don't know. Whether she was completely sober or trashed or anywhere in between, she didn't deserve to be murdered. So who cares? There is no victim shaming here. I'm sick of it. There's no rational explanation for why that girl got murdered. Period. Whether she was drunk or not drunk, pregnant or not pregnant, anything else you can come up with. She didn't deserve to die. Period. She didn't do anything to deserve to die. So stop. The conversations about that are starting to really piss me off, if I'm honest. Damn. Who cares whether she had a drink or didn't have a drink? Whether she was stumbling or didn't stumble. I will say this, as someone who was in Birmingham recently walking in downtown on my phone, I almost stepped into a manhole. You can get on your phone, and if you've ever walked on the sidewalks in Oxford or anywhere for that matter, it's not completely level. You can step off something. And then she appeared to be walking in heels. I don't know how women walk in those damn things. I really don't. It's a skill that I don't think I could possess. Regardless, I watched that video, and what keeps coming back to me is all the people kind of loitering, for lack of a better word, in the streets.
I'll be honest, when I saw it, that was less than I typically see there. I'm kind of desensitized to that a little bit because I've actually seen a lot more there. I kind of thought, oh, crowd wasn't very big that night. I'll be honest, that was my first thought.
And so I just kind of wondered.
Is it? Yeah, because is this what you're talking about? I mean, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, that's lie. I'm not.
Yeah. And I've been there when it's worse than that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen it. I'm not out at 11:53.
And now
Friday.
We're talking about the alley right there at the corner. When she's walking back from Funky's, the alley that runs between Funky's and the library. It's an alley that stays closed, and frankly, it should be just because of the traffic between those two. It's when, frankly, when it gets bad in Oxford is when they start closing Jackson, or what was heading toward Jackson Avenue right there sometimes is where it's like, hey, you're just letting people loiter everywhere, and it's this big, I mean, it's a safety concern because you just have people lingering and staying, and you're giving them the allowance to do that, and that's the problem.
So I don't know. I think all in all, we're all kind of saying the same thing. Can you judge every person at a university based on a murder? Of course not.
I think she was just looking at her phone and in heels the more I watch it. I mean, I'm not an expert or a specialist. She's looking for an Uber, or she's staring at the screen on where the GPS is going, is the way it appears to me. Again, just the way it appears. And I think she just kind of walked into the wall because she wasn't paying attention to where she was going.
And you and I know a little bit more than what we can say.
Yeah.
And there was a lot going on for her. There was a lot on her mind that night. And listen, again, it doesn't matter. She didn't deserve to die, period. But stress, high levels of stress can shake you up.
Of course.
And she was under a lot of stress.
So anything.
And she's a young person. I just think the university has to come out here soon and kind of. I agree with what you said about out-of-state recruiting. Here's the thing. So you got these kids from Texas that to get into the University of Texas or Texas A&M from Texas, you got to score really high and you got to graduate near the top like 8% of your class or stuff. Don't hold me to specific numbers, everybody. I don't know them. I just know it's hard.
It's fair.
There's a lot of kids from Texas The same for Georgia. It's hard for Georgia kids to get into Georgia or Georgia Tech. And so all those kids are going to go to college somewhere else, and there's competition for those kids. And I think Ole Miss should absolutely be involved in that competition. But if you don't compete for the higher levels and you start just accepting the lower levels because they're coming in and paying full tuition, well, you get what you pay for. When you get the kids that are only coming to party, they don't really have academic aspirations. They're going to college because college is next, and they got daddy's money, and they're going to get their degree and go back to wherever, Dallas or Houston or Atlanta or whatever, and rely on daddy's connections. Well, you can't be surprised when those kids come to college and they're crazy. Crazier than the other kids. And I don't know that
again, no broad brush.
I don't know that perception, if that perception becomes so widespread that it might as well be reality, I don't know that is attractive when you're trying to get the other kinds of kids that, have to do well. That college is academics first. Listen, I've never run a university in my life. I've never worked at a university in my life. But I have to think that these are things that are being discussed over there right now. They lowered their out-of-state requirements.
Well, actually, at one point, if I'm wrong, I apologize. I think I'm right here. I think they raised them and then didn't get the numbers they were trying to get and then kind of just let everybody else back in, too. I think they raised them and then kind of backed off of it is the way I think that's what happened.
And I think it's safe to say that they're not doing well enough against Mississippi State on in-state kids. And they've got to improve that.
Yeah, because you get a little more tuition money from the out-of-state kid, but once that bill runs out, you're just not getting you're not getting the other side of it. I mean, you're just not. That kids are going home. Kids are going home. It's the biggest problem, period. It's industry. I mean, in the state, it's all these things. It's brain drain, as you call it. It's smart people leaving. It's lack of industry. It's all this stuff. And one way to kind of grassroots start that is to get better alumni or better students who are going to stick around and help as alumni.
I'm hesitant to tell this story because people get pissy at me, and I don't know. I went with Campbell to her orientation. Laura didn't go. Laura had to work. And within 5 minutes of the start of orientation, they had separated me from Campbell, which basically meant I had no one to talk to. And so I'm sure because of my incredible good looks, several of the other women there who had sons or daughters struck up conversations with me, probably just because they looked at me and said, God, what a handsome man. Obviously, I'm being facetious. But they would read my name tag. It said Neal McCready, Oxford, Mississippi. And they'd say, oh, you live in Oxford. And I'd say, smart ass, well, yeah, that's my name tag. I'd say, yeah, I live in Oxford. You're not going to Ole Miss? No, we're not going to Ole Miss.
Actually, we are. We're just hanging out for orientation here, actually.
Yeah, and then they would say, I heard this from 4 different people, okay? Texas kids. All Texas kids. We looked at Ole Miss, looked at it hard. And I kind of got 2 things. So what'd you like? Well, it's beautiful, beautiful campus. That's a really cool town. They said, kind of got a sense that there wasn't a lot of leadership. Got tired of hearing about how pretty it was. Needed to hear more. Got that consistently. Now, Campbell didn't look at Ole Miss. They didn't really recruit her until I said something on a podcast, and then they kind of did, and by then it was kind of done, and it didn't matter. She wasn't going to go there anyway. It's fine. My other daughter, Caroline, is looking at Ole Miss really hard, and Ole Miss is recruiting her, and we'll see what happens. But the leadership thing has to be addressed, and the leadership thing has to be addressed in a bold way. And whoever steps into that job, I mean, they're going to get like an opening day, I assume, where they get to have like a speechy and stuff. And I'm going to tell you about the moment that speech is over and he or she walks from behind the podium into
the Lyceum.
Into the Lyceum. It's time to get to work, and I do not envy you. You got a lot to do on multiple fronts. But Ole Miss is a great place, and Oxford is a great place, and you can fix it. But someone's going to have some courage, and someone's going to have some stick-to-itiveness, and they're going to have some boldness, and they're going to have to be willing to piss some people off, and they're going to have to be really ready to roll their proverbial sleeves up and get to work a little bit. It's a great place. It's a great school. Oxford's awesome. I say this all the time. Oxford's kind of crazy, but I love Oxford. It's fantastic. It's a great place to raise your kids. It's a fun place to live. It's a little nuts, but most places are kind of a little nuts. But here's my thing about this week. It would be foolish to take this week and say that represents Ole Miss.
Of course.
Of course. It would also be foolish to look at this week and say there's no lesson to learn from it. Dismiss that. Oh, that's an outlier. It is, but you need to look at it. You need to look at it. Because here's the thing. Parents are going to come here for orientation. Parents are going to come here Caroline's about to start her junior year. Chargerettes took junior year pictures the other day in the Grove. It's here. Caroline got her schedule. Carson got his schedule. We're here. Junior year start. Caroline's getting ready for the ACT again. So are all sorts of juniors all over the country. About time to start taking some college trips, some junior days. Ole Miss and Mississippi State and Auburn and Arkansas and Alabama and LSU and Oklahoma State and all these other schools are going to be inviting kids to come to junior day. Come to Mississippi State's already done it. Come to the Mississippi State whoever game and come to campus and let us know you're here. We want to show you around. And that's coming. And parents are going to ask questions. Got to be ready to answer those questions with something beyond, look at the pretty azaleas. You got to have more than that. Yeah, Ole Miss is gorgeous. It's the prettiest campus I've seen. I went to a bunch of them in the fall. It's gorgeous. You might date the girl because she's the prettiest girl in the world. You typically don't choose her because of that. You typically want a little bit more substance. You know what I mean? Typically. Not always, but typically.
And there's an opportunity here, I think. I'm kind of trying to look right now while I'm talking about this, but because I don't know the answer to this. They're having a regime change in the admissions department. Whitman Smith retired in May. I do not know if there's a replacement or not. I'm clicking through trying to find out, but I'm doing 10 things at once, so I can't find it. This is a fact. It gives you an easy splice point to make some changes in your recruitment policies.
Sure.
The way you do things.
They got to do better in state.
Yeah,
bottom line.
Period.
Got to do better in state. Can't get beat like that. They've got to do things that make Mississippi kids more comfortable. Truth. That is truth. I don't even think I'll get any pushback on that. I don't think anyone will push back. I think most people agree with that. And then you've got to come up with some answers about out-of-state recruiting. Because absolutely, at a place like Ole Miss, you have to recruit out-of-state kids. You've got to recruit Texas and Georgia and Alabama and Louisiana, and you've got to recruit those states. Absolutely, and you've got to recruit nationally. Alabama has grown nationally to the point of it's not even the same school that it was 20 years ago.
Yeah, I've got the staff pulled up, and Jody Lowe, who's been there for a long time, I know him. He's the interim director of admissions, but they do not have a full-time permanent listed at this point.
Yeah, and they've got to get that done. Because it's all about that, really. You've got to bring in people that you've got to get kids. You can change the culture of a school. Maybe it's different programs, different out-of-state tuition waiver type things. Maybe it's you do something along the lines of what Arkansas has done. I don't know. I don't know how the money works. I don't know how all that happens. But you can't get beat on the kid making the 29 and only take in the kid that's making the 22. You do enough of that, and the results will bear out the worst. And I'm not saying Ole Miss has done that at all. I have no clue what their average ACT and all that stuff is.
Their incoming average ACT this past year was a 25. Per the admissions website I'm staring at.
And that number is always going to be difficult to completely pull up
it's not a good representation either way.
Because of the in-state.
So hard.
The in-state requirement is graduate, right?
Well, I think it's higher than that, but yeah, I get what you mean. I know what you mean.
But I don't think an in-state kid has to have a certain ACT
Like
score.
on their little profile here, when you first click on admissions, which kind of was your point, the very first there's like several tabs that pull up to give you like superlatives, if you will. The first one says name most beautiful campus by USA Today, Newsweek, and the Princeton Review. It's the first thing that pops up.
Forgive me here. So what?
19-to-1 student-to-faculty ratio is the second thing that pops up.
That's good.
Name best college town by Southern Living Magazine.
Okay.
Let's see. Average ACT score for incoming freshmen, 25. And included in the R1, Doctoral University's highest research activity, which to me, that's not talked about enough, and that is not used enough in positive ways, whether it be to attract better faculty, to become a better standing. You are an R1 research institution. Those don't just grow on trees. That is a huge deal.
That needs to be.
And it is not talked about enough. It is not put out there enough. And here's the thing: it's not applied enough in any way. That's the deal.
Because listen, man, kids walk around on their damn cell phones. They're not looking at the pretty trees. Oh, look, John! Look at the landscaping. See how they do the hydrangeas there, and no one's paying attention to that.
Yeah. All right, we'll come back and do a little more of this. We thought it was Fairway Friday, but basically we're focused on one topic today. We're gonna take a break, and then we're gonna talk about the band thing that I told you at the opening. So we'll do that. Then after that, we'll come back and continue this conversation. First, about MasterCut's Lawn and Landscape. Premium lawn care throughout northern Mississippi. They offer a lot more as well. They build your custom playgrounds, retaining walls, pool decks, outdoor living spaces, paver patios, forestry mulching, and much more. The path to your dream backyard, easier than you think. You can find them online at gomastercuts.com for a free quote or 662-607-7773. Again, gomastercuts.com.
The podcast is also brought to you by the Westin Jackson. It's a Marriott property. You can use your Marriott reward points and have kind of a fun weekend. You can accrue Marriott rewards points. You can visit Soul Spots, the ultimate luxury spa experience in downtown Jackson. You can gather at Estelle Wine Bar and Bistro as well, sip on a creative craft cocktail, enjoy their curated wine list. It's open for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. It's fantastic. You should go. It's at Estelle right there in the Westin Jackson. The podcast also brought to you by John Edwards of Regency Travel Incorporated in Memphis. If you're thinking about your next big trip, maybe it's next summer, maybe it's the holidays, maybe it's fall break, whatever the case may be, get in touch with John, 901-494-3387, Edwards at regencytravel.net. Give him some parameters, give him a budget, he'll give you options, and you don't have to live anywhere near Memphis to take advantage of his services. And you can save $50 if you tell John that you heard about the podcast and you book your first trip. You'll save $50. We're also brought to you by Grenada Nissan, located just off Interstate 55 in Grenada, Mississippi. Grenada Nissan has a complete selection of new and previously owned Nissan vehicles. Go in, test drive one today. It's GrenadaNissanUSA.com. And we're brought to you by Harry Alexander. Harry is an Oxford-based RE/MAX Legacy Realty agent. He's been in Oxford a long time, probably longer than he wants me to admit here on the show. But right now, he's a big part of Savannah Square. It's a new 9-acre development, 7/10 of a mile from the Oxford downtown square, conveniently located east of North Lamar, just a short stroll from the Midtown Shopping Center. Savannah Square will initially consist of 32 homes ranging in size from about 1,100 square feet to about 2,400 square feet. You can check out the model at 215 William Street. Get in touch with Harry, look at the model, find out about all the wonderful layouts, the impeccable finishes, and get all the information you need about Savannah Square. SavannahSquareOxford.com or call Harry at 662-801-5621.
Now here we will we'll do the band interview. We'll come back and talk a little more. So here is that. Jeff Roberson, Brett Bartlett joining us today on the Oxford Exxon podcast. Appreciate the time. And Jeff, I guess it's the first time that I've had you on the show, and it's been 12 years since you wrote down a number on a yellow legal pad and hired me at the Ole Miss Spirit. So we meet again after a while. It's been a dozen years. You're out of it now, but it's been a little while. So.
I'm sorry I screwed your life up. I really am.
I don't know what I would have done, because at that point, we're getting into the band in a second. I know I had gone to an interview for a copy editing job at the Clarion Ledger the month before that. I have a feeling I would not still be doing copy editing at the Clarion Ledger at that point had I taken that. But I was finishing up at the DM. I was a sports editor still, and we were really close to that part of the tenure being open when I joined. That was February 2007.
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of us, or a bunch of us, or whatever, you wanted to stick around if you could, and we figured that out somehow and made it happen, so we're both still here. I guess it works.
I've bounced around. I've been a Rival since 2009. I've only applied for one job since 2009, and that was even in like 2010, 2011, so yeah, pretty stuck.
Well, you kind of get where you want to be, and you kind of stay, and it's a lot of fun, and it's a lot of work, but, there are a lot worse things to do.
Yeah. So, Brett, appreciate the time too. We're gonna get into a little band thing, and you had provided me with this graphic, and I'm looking at from an aerial footage of what the band field currently looks like, what the director's stand, if you will, looks like. I asked you before we started the show, is this really today? I'm a little embarrassed because had you told me this was 1971, I would have believed you.
It's really terrible, isn't it? I mean, the Oxford High practices on a better field than this. It's a 90-yard field with, like, mud lines the kids have to march in. It's just impossible. And we're losing ground to all the other schools in the SEC and everywhere.
I'll post these pictures on rebelgrove.com. Let people see what's currently being dealt with if you haven't walked out to the band area. But to just kind of give an idea of the current setup, what does it do? What does this impact? Not just from an aesthetic view, which is important enough, but how is this being a detriment to the band's performance at this point?
Yeah, there's a few ways. First of all, recruiting is terrible because Randy Dale, current band director, can't bring these students in and show them this nice band field. Well, Mississippi State can, Auburn can, Texas A&M can. They've got these field turf fields, which are incredible. And even Oxford High is practicing on field turf. But this field is 90 yards. It's got no end zones. So if you want to line up for your show in the end zone, you have to line up on the hill beside the building.
So it's 30 yards short of what's necessary.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, okay.
Right. So makes a performance in Hemingway is completely different than what the kids have practiced all week. They have to make sure they get over to Hemingway, get on the field when they can, when the football team's not there. Really difficult. And then the band director's tower is a condemned, made out of telephone poles and borrowed lumber thing, which nobody should go up on. It's not safe for anybody, but Randy and David go up there every day and try to direct these kids. I'll give you an athletic comparison. It's kind of like the band is recruiting to Tad Smith Coliseum before the pavilion was built.
That's what I was thinking. That was the thing going through my head, because you always, you mentioned I would take them.
Maybe worse.
Well, and that's what, AK always talked about that. He said, I can't take the kids into Tad Smith. We go, oh yeah, we play over there, but let's get on over here till we actually do something. I mean, that is the deal going on, but at least Tad Smith had 10-foot goals and a 94-foot court. I mean, it had at least the necessities here. And I see this because you mentioned, even regardless of scholarship things or whatever, which is not necessarily what we're talking about right now, that is a huge impact because that's where they're going to be every day. So a Mississippi State or an Auburn or something you're competing against. And I know as of right now, numbers skewing very, very in-state, right?
Really in-state. About 80% are in-state. Jeff and I were talking about before how when we were in the band in the 80s, and we don't want to turn it into that, we were in the band and it was so great. But I always just say last century, so you don't know if it's 80s or 90s or whatever. Jeff and I have known each other since the early 80s when he was drum major. But back then there were 40 kids in our band from Memphis or West Tennessee, and last year's band had 4. It's just incredible. 6 from Alabama, 1 from Louisiana. We just can't get those kids in because of scholarships and this band field. Randy Dale and David do their best recruiting in Mississippi. It's just really difficult.
What is the draining situation here now? Because I'm seeing in some of these pictures you've got a lot of just buildup, whether it be mud or anything else. And I'll be honest. We sit in the press box football game, so our normal criticism is they're not walking in straight lines, they're not marching in straight lines, and just saying now when I look at this, well, the lines aren't in a straight line, if you will.
The lines aren't straight, and the grass is about 4 inches tall. Anytime it rains significantly, the kids are marching around in mud. It's incredibly bad.
So as the project is getting started, kind of where are we at as far as what's going to go out, what's been done, how much? Just kind of give me some logistics for this campaign.
Okay, so the campaign is for about $2.5 million, and that would add drainage, a field, turf field, a brand new director's booth or a tower, which Summer Spradling has already pledged money for. So we do have one good pledge for that. There would be a watching area where anybody who was at the university today, could come down and sit and watch band practice. It would be an amazing recruiting tool. It all has to be done at once, though, so that's sort of a problem.
Oh.
Because they have to put in the drainage and the superstructure for the watching area and the tower. It all has to be sort of one thing. So Ron Wilson and William Knipe and the foundation are doing an incredible job, contacting people. But it's hard to get people to give, $200,000, $100,000. If you're so inclined, you can buy a 10-yard section of the field for $100,000 and put your name on it. So you could have the Chase Parham, 30 to 40 yard line.
Okay.
Anyway, we're going to start a campaign next week. We're mailing out 3,000 letters called the Friends of the Pride of the South, and it's going to have different giving levels. And we hope to use some of that money to go to the band field.
One thing you didn't mention was it's got to be a 100-yard field again, because you were going through that list of things, and I was thinking, okay, this might not be a very positive thing to say in Oxford either. You got to move some trees probably to get this band field 100 yards. So there's going to be a lot of work to this, a lot of expense.
If you've been to baseball games, a lot of people walk through that field. The students, especially carrying their coolers. All those trees on that south end, they're all going to have to be moved. To make the field 100 yards. There's just not even room.
What was this area beforehand? This was something to do with University High back in the day, right?
It was just an intramural football field at that point, because the University High football field was where the baseball stadium is. Yeah. So I think back in the years of we were around, it was just an intramural field, and then the band moved from the band hall was in Central Campus and moved out to that building where it is now, right by that band field, and that was when they got the field.
Back in the late 70s, we played pickup football there on Sunday afternoons, and we had a great game. It was the Catholics in Oxford versus everyone else. And, Coach Carmody, Jim Carmody's son, Steve Carmody, played for the Catholics, and it was a big deal. On Sunday afternoons, we would go there and play football, and it was just a field like it is today.
It looks like the grading and the drainage and everything is exactly the same at that point. So I'll buy that. How long does this project take if you did have all funds in hand? Do we know timelines there?
Yeah,
once you got the money in
9 to 12 months. Is what they've said. Yeah.
Where would the band do in the interim? I'm just curious more than anything else. Is that a good question?
Good question.
That's a really good question. Don't know.
Yeah, but those things could be worked out. Hopefully, there's the opportunity to have that problem. But I think that as we look at as you'll be able to see on pictures when you post them and things like that, if you really can see it, you can see just how detrimental it is to recruiting and to morale. I think that they want to if they know what's going on at other universities as far as the practice facilities for the band and all, they would like to be on equal status. And it's not really about that kind of competition. It's just that that they deserve a better place to work. And I think it's really kind of up to those people who love the band or support the band or want to make a good. The band is it's as good a PR group as there is on campus, because you have this large group of people in a large setting with thousands of people watching them in person and on TV. So I think that it's an important aspect of the university. And I think people would agree with that for sure, but they just need help.
Yeah, because it's also for just the football fan that's just trying to enhance game days. I mean, even if that's the only time of year they see the band. I mean, I know it's not all they do by any stretch, but that is the most prominent thing for the largest number of people. And, Ole Miss is dealing with it just like a lot of people right now of how do you either, A, get people out of the Grove and into the stadium? How are you just getting people into the stadium, period, instead of staying on television? And the way to do that is to enhance the entire experience and a better, bigger band, recruiting, all these things. That does play a huge role in that, I would think.
I think college football is sort of, inextricably entwined with the band. If you watch Last Chance U, who's in the preview part of that show? It's the band, even though it's like 20 members. You hear that rat-a-tat-tat of the snare drums, and that means it's fall and college football time. At least it does to me, and I think a lot of people, they're just intertwined. The Grove, without the band playing like they do pregame, is diminished, I think.
Obviously, renovations and expansions and those type of things just have to come out of donations, fundraising, but just general operating budget. Where does the band's money come from?
There is about $1 million that goes to scholarships. Okay. And we started 20 years ago a Friends of Note Endowment Scholarship Fund to help with that. The athletic department occasionally, will put in money, like I think this year because they were going to move the band to behind the goalposts in that hot as hell area in the stadium. Randy made a deal that, hey, you'll buy us some summer uniforms if you can, if we're going to move there. And so the band is going to have some uniforms supplied by the athletic department. So they get it from where they can, but it's never steady and never big.
Wool in September is not the best way to go, is what you're telling me?
They've got some nice red polos, I think, and some navy khaki pants and shorts.
Are there schools that do have just a cool, more ventilated, traditional uniform, if you will? Because I do know that's a thing for fans to, hey, does anybody have any idea? I know we're just talking.
Well, back in the day, we didn't have ventilated uniforms. They may now, but it was awfully hot, the things that we had to wear.
Well, I mean, we all see message boards. Jeff and I have worked on your own. I mean, that's the thing, though. You see a lot of, hey, why are they not in uniforms or in different things at different times of the year, I guess.
I think they make those uniforms, it's always this poly wool blend, so you freeze to death in the winter and you burn up in the summer because they wear better, the last 20 years, I guess. What do you think, Jeff?
Yeah, I can't talk about uniforms in this day and age, but certainly back then they were not very comfortable at all.
We never got to be out of our uniforms. Luther Snavely made us wear those darn things the whole day.
So for people that do want to get involved, that are hearing this, and seeing the pictures, you obviously have a current mailing list, but what's the step for the person that's not on these lists? What kind of comes now?
So they can call the foundation and talk to William Knipe. That's the easiest thing. Or to Ron Wilson. Those guys are directly in charge of fundraising for the field. And William's in charge of getting out the letters to the Friends of the Pride of the South. So just contact the foundation. They'd be happy to take the call about this.
And you can pick your thing. I'm sure if you've got different denominations, you'll take anything at this point. Just trying to get started, and anyone with anything is the way to go right now.
Absolutely. $1 to, what do we have, $100,000 here, if you want to do the 10 yards like we said, or $160, I think, if you want to build the fence around the field.
Chase, I think one of the things that, that I would say that people like Brett and I are involved with, and he's been much more involved in this through the years. I've kind of been off to the side and doing other things. But I think that what one of the main things that comes to my mind is that we want students in the band these days to have the experience that we all had, which was whatever it was back then. We probably had a little better marching practice feel, but I mean, it was just, the people that have been through the band, I think for the most part have really enjoyed it. They've had good experiences. When we were there, I know how much the fans loved us and the crowd loved us, and and the team, they seem to too. So I just think that it's good for the students that are at the university, that are in the band, and the future students, to have that experience that they can, years later reflect on or help out in a project like this. So it's about them. It's all about the band students and what they need and deserve.
So again, I'll put the pictures, put a lot of this information up on the site, on social media, and then also in the info part of where you listen to these podcasts to be able to see those things, because it's fairly remarkable what they're currently dealing with. Again, I had no real idea of that, but several different things trying to do, and you can find out more there, and you can help out any way you can. So, Jeff, Brett, appreciate it, and we'll talk again as it kind of keeps going, and we'll get through it a little bit.
Thank you, Chase.
Thanks a lot, Chase.
And this was good enough for my first Rebel Grove podcast.
It only took 8 years.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Podcast brought to you in part by G&M Pharmacy right there on South Lamar in Oxford. Deliver local to your home or workplace in the Oxford area. They also offer MedSyncs. They fill your prescriptions the same day every single month. Make it easy on you, one trip or one delivery, and you'll have what you need when you need it. We've been also telling you about sildenafil. It's the 15-minute cure to what might ail you. You can find out more through TysonDrugs.com, GandMPharmacy.com.
It cures everything?
It cures one thing, apparently. You can break it into half, break it into quarters. You might not need the whole pill. If so, hey, just more for you. You can just click on product request to request that prescription right there online, or give them a call at 662-236-2222.
Don't miss 1 minute of the action at the Vault this season as Ole Miss football arrives this September. Reserve your season tickets with the new 2019 season ticket pricing for just $299. For more information, visit OleMissTix.com. That's OleMissTix.com. It's almost time for the football season. My post-game columns will be brought to you by Pinnacle Trust. Don't forget, Pinnacle Trust offers 401k advisory services. If you are a employer and your employee 401k plan is not doing for you what you would like for it to do, get in touch with Pinnacle Trust 401k advisory services. They'll come in. They'll basically give you an assessment. They'll check you out. They'll give you some ideas. That initial consultation is free. They can conduct a complimentary, no obligation benchmarking and analysis of your current 401k plan. It's as simple as that. No risk on your part. And if you end up going with Pinnacle Trust, tell them that you heard about Pinnacle Trust on the Oxford Exxon podcast. You'll get 10% off your first year's fees. It's pintrust.com, PINN trust.com.
Yeah, I think you hit on it. I mean, as we kind of close this topic a little bit, I think that you can't make a sweeping assertion. But yeah, there are always learning points to anything, and that's the key here. Whether it be this KA thing, whether it be the tragedy that's happened this week, just you got to self-scout, you got to examine, you got to figure out where you can get better. And that's the thing with Ole Miss, with all this turnover and all this lack of permanent positions at the moment. There's not a lot of that happening, and then that's not a shot at Larry Sparks. That's not what his deal is right now.
Look, every football team. What does every football team do? High school, college, pro. What do they do after every game?
They self-scout. Look at their own
go
problems.
watch the film.
Yeah. And this is the time of year when a university should be watching the film.
You should be watching the film.
Admissions-wise, reputation-wise, the whole deal. What can we do? What are we doing well? Okay, we'll keep doing that. Do it a little better. Now, what are we doing wrong? How do we fix it? What do we do?
Yeah, and most of the film, the first part of the film is you yell at it. You get yelled at, right? You get yelled at. Hey, God, what the hell were you doing right there? What were you in? I can remember blowing coverages and what happened. And I thought we were in 2, but we were really in 3. Or I thought we were in combo, but we were really in man. Whatever. But then after that, you go back out on the practice field and you work on it. You try to improve because it's in the past. It's done. It's film watching time. Time to go back and look at, okay, here's what we're doing wrong. We're not lined up right. Eyes are in the wrong place. That's probably not the best analogy because we dealt with that a lot the last 2 years. But fix it. What needs to be fixed? And then what are you doing well that you can enhance? I don't want to come across as the guy going, man, it's horrible. It's not.
No, I don't think it's I don't think it's catastrophic by any stretch of imagination. It's just...
In fact, I think it's a big opportunity for whoever gets the job to come in and put his or her stamp on it, to come in and listen to people. And they've done some of that. But listen to people. And then make some changes. Because there are a lot of disgruntled people right now. I hear from them. You hear from them. But those people, the fact that they're so disgruntled means that they want to come back. The fact that I'm frustrated with the Cubs right now tells you that I'm really, really wanting to get all back in. If I just stopped caring and stopped watching, well, now you have a problem.
I think a lot of times, and this is every school to some extent. I think that, we forget sometimes that, I mentioned this to you, the Greek system is not a 50% deal in this school. It's a much smaller than 50% deal in this school, but it carries much more than a 50% reputation of the school at times. And I think that's the key. I mean, I think, one of the things, and I don't know how to do this. It's not my job, so maybe this is unfair. I think, in some ways you have to embolden the independents, if you will, that really are intelligent and striving to do things in the university. I mean, again, this is every school in the world. I'm just kind of talking, and I'm not.
You have to sit down with the fraternities.
This is not critical of fraternities even, but it's hard. The independent, it's almost impossible to win an election. It's hard to get student government positions. It's hard to do a lot of those things where it almost puts you in this deal where you have to kind of fit in this bubble if you're trying to accomplish these things. And that's not an anti-Greek thing. That's
but as an administration, you can. Let's face it, this is not a sorority thing. This is a fraternity thing. Most sororities they hold the kids to pretty high academic standards. I mean, it's one of the things we've looked at with Campbell. I mean, some of the sororities and stuff, we look at their average GPA and for freshmen, and we're like, yeah, I'm glad she's doing this. There's going to be monitoring, But you can walk into a fraternity house. You absolutely can. And you can say, hey, here's the deal. You're going to be held to this standard. And if you don't meet this standard, we're going to shut your ass down. And don't give me the boys will be boys stuff. That's crap. That is such a cop-out excuse. It's a cop-out. It's a total cop-out. All boys are not misogynistic alcoholics. You can hold people to standards. Your average GPA has to be a certain thing for you to maintain on-campus status. You absolutely can hold fraternities to a higher standard.
Yeah, and I don't know what those currents are. This is my problem here. I have no idea. I don't know.
But you can.
Yeah, I hate to speak out of turn because I have no clue. I have no idea.
I don't either. I don't either. I mean, and luckily my two oldest are girls, and I don't have to worry about the fraternity thing for another 6 years. And he's the type that probably isn't going to do that. Pretty independent kid. Marches a little bit to his own beat. But I do think you can go in and you can hold people to standards, and you can look at this KA thing and you can make it an opportunity to speak to everyone on that campus.
Yeah, I think the Greek system and the university have to get together and go, yeah, you can't punish 200 kids or 10,000 kids for the acts of 3, but we have to figure out, are we enabling? Are we doing this? Is there something that is causing a magnet to be pushed toward us and toward these kids? And towards what? Well, I mean, look, again, I'm not saying that Mississippi kids don't get in trouble. I'm not saying that they're whatever. I am saying, though, that there appears to be a profile happening in a lot of these more high-profile cases that do come up.
Yeah, they're all out-of-state kids from Texas and Georgia that are doing it.
The news thing was 3 Georgia kids.
And they're coming over here because they don't have the ACT to get in, or the SAT to get into the schools in their own state. And they come over here because it's a party school. It has a reputation for being a party school, and they're coming over for the party. And a lot of those kids have embraced all that Confederate flag stuff. I mean, sometimes you look at, drive around town. The people that have Confederate flags and stuff all in their cars, a lot of times they have Georgia tags. And I know people are saying, well, it's not as easy as you're saying, Neil. I mean, there's freedom of speech and there's stuff like that, and I get it. I'm not telling you that I'm fixing the problem. But you absolutely, that's an issue. Talk to enough Oxford kids who go to Ole Miss and they'll tell you. They don't like a lot of those kind of kids. Pretty foreign to them.
It's a critical time. It's the most critical time. I'll reiterate that because I do believe it. Sometime this year, they're going to put a chancellor in place. I assume.
This calendar year?
Yeah. It's my guess. Very end of it, but yeah. The current schedule is fitting that at least. So
Okay.
barring something pushed back, that is true.
I hope for the
I think the
school's sake you're right.
on-campus visits are October, late October, I think, when I looked at the schedule. I got a copy of it somewhere.
And then they turn it around pretty quick?
My interpretation was that was going to happen, yes.
Okay. How many people are they bringing to campus?
I have no idea. Yeah, sorry. I just have a schedule. I don't know.
Are you still on the campaign? Have you gotten off the campaign? Are you back into the neutral zone?
No.
Are you Switzerland again? Or are you still
got stickers that say Robbins for chancellor?
Yeah.
I still believe that it should be so. I still believe that the current position for him should not be a detriment, and that they should find a way to allow him to do the process on a way that would suit him. Does that make sense?
referring to Robbins?
Yeah, because he can't do some huge public thing as the freaking president of Arizona.
No.
And I think Ford said in one of those listening sessions that we have some alternate paths for people who need it. So okay, good enough, all good there.
Yeah, you can't eliminate people with your procedures.
No, but I mean, I'm gonna, I know you're being very, very careful. I mean, I'm going to try to cover this to some extent and have some opinions and different things. So
Well,
I mean,
I don't feel I'm enough of an Ole Miss person to have an opinion on who they should hire, other than me saying that whoever they hire better be ready to go to work, like fast.
I mean, I think we're going, we're going to at least follow it. We're going to talk about some different things that happen with it on this podcast. I've kind of got an idea in my head right now for next week. So I mean,
Not
yeah.
Robbins, somebody else.
Well, just in general, yeah. I mean, I'd be happy. We can do that too. But no, I mean, again, we talked about the Ellie Costiall case all week. I mean, we're trying to talk about whatever you guys are talking about. That's the goal for this podcast. It's always been the goal for this podcast.
Of course.
So yeah, we'll cover the chancellor thing to some extent. But yeah, I think there will be a chancellor in place by the end of the year. I do believe that, at least named. I don't know how all the initiation stuff works and whatever, but inauguration, whatever it is for them. But yeah, I do believe one will be chosen by the end of the year, and then you're looking at, after that happens, they've got to figure out the athletic director thing.
Yeah, he or she's going to have to hustle.
Yeah,
We got a lot to do.
and we don't know. Look, I mean, I can name some people who want the job. I can name some candidates, but the search firm's going to talk to a bunch of people. I mean, last time they had when Vitter got hired, they interviewed the guy who's the president of Texas Tech now. They talked to the the number 2 at Alabama, I think, was a finalist there.
Didn't they talk to the guy who's at Arkansas now?
Did they do that, or was Vitter up for the Arkansas job and they hired Vitter to keep him from going to Arkansas?
One or the other.
Yeah, I think maybe Vitter was up for the Arkansas job, if I remember that correctly.
Changed my life a little bit. Didn't know it at the time.
You weren't aware of that situation as it was playing out?
I wasn't really following along with any interest whatsoever. Turns out I should have.
Yeah, I think it was one or the other or both, something along those lines. I think Robbins is going to be somewhat of a candidate at Auburn. So you got that to deal with.
They've got an interesting deal over there.
Is it North Carolina that has an opening too?
I don't know.
Maybe somebody else over on kind of in that area has an opening. Might be North Carolina.
Auburn's an interesting place right now. They've.
I'll be honest.
They may have raised their standards a little too high.
Big Say, it's an interesting deal because if let's take Robbins out of it. Let's just say John Doe, who is a great chancellor candidate at multiple schools, because of the ability to make an impact at Ole Miss, and because Auburn is still trying to kind of figure a lot of crap out too, I think Ole Miss gives you a better opportunity right now as a chancellor than Auburn does.
Oh,
I think where it's at on the timeline right now gives you a chance to, I mean, you take it like with a football coach, it's where, hey, got a lot of pieces, and you're going to look like, it's the hitting coach whose team sucked, where if you get this thing figured out, moving in the right direction, you look like a godsend all of a sudden.
Oh, yeah, it's Mike McIntyre on defense this year.
Yeah.
Hey, we lined up right. That's a dramatic improvement. We got the call in.
We'll tell that whole story at some point, right?
Yeah, there's a certain story that I'm always itching to kind of tell about.
The lineup.
Yeah, I think we can say it without naming anybody.
No, I think if we hold it, we can tell the full story at a certain point in the season.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Need to get through something first.
Okay.
A week that's going to be a lot of fun, frankly, for a number of reasons.
Oh, yeah.
I'm already kind of juiced up for that week, I'll be honest.
Well, you do know
I'm going to laugh for 6 days straight that week. I'm just telling everybody now I'm laughing for 6 days straight.
because of the other.
Yeah, a couple different things. Yeah.
You know it won't be a big deal here. No. You're aware of that, right?
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. That's not what I'm talking about.
Yeah, okay, good.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, guys.
Crazy.
But no, you're right. It's Mike McIntyre. It's, had Mike Clement gone to A&M, they were terrible offensively last year, so suddenly they become competent, and hey, here we go.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Who always gets manager of the year? The guy that takes the team from awful to middle of the pack.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Dave Roberts is not going to win National League Manager of the Year.
Oh, in college, Tim Corbin didn't win. Eric Bakich won. The guy that's the Michigan coach.
Yeah. Corbin probably wouldn't trade the two things right now. He'd stick with what
Corbin has to manage a lot of egos and stuff, probably.
Sure he does.
Got to keep it on the tracks.
Boy, they've produced a bunch of major leaguers.
Oh, I mean, it's starting to become the cycle that it's whatever.
Like the Cubs faced maybe I saw Tyler Beatty, is that his name?
Yeah, Tyler
pitch
Beatty.
the other day. And I was like, I know who that is.
Went to Vanderbilt.
And then someone goes Vanderbilt. I'm like, son of a.
Well, that becomes the default answer. Where'd he go, Vanderbilt? I mean, Walker Buehler, Sonny Gray, David Price. I mean.
Yeah, they got a few.
They have a few. So, we're obviously not doing Fire Away Friday today.
Is there any more questions?
Well, yeah, but I mean, we've got like 8 minutes. I mean, I've got a couple. Where do you see the podcast in 5 or 10 years? That's a great question. Here? I don't know. But there are some things that have to get done.
Yeah, at some point we've got to do the video portion of it.
But we got to do it the right way. We got to figure out what that's supposed to look like.
And frankly, we're going to have more people to make that work.
I've got a couple hang-ups on that most people don't think about, that I think about, that I've got to we got to figure that out a little bit. So, I don't know.
And I do question how many people watch a podcast. My answer is not many today. Podcasts are potable.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why I've kind of put it to the wayside right now until I figure out exactly how I do it, because everybody goes, hey, just put it on YouTube. And look, I get it. And I get this is not – is this a big deal? Probably not. But it's one of my hang-ups, I'll be honest here, is we put the video up on YouTube. Somebody who has no idea about our podcasts, for the guy that's under the rock, wherever he is, he stumbles across it on YouTube, clicks it, might even like it, but he looks down and sees 371 views. Well, our podcast gets thousands of downloads a day.
Tens of thousands.
So I don't necessarily like that being the opening and the front door to our podcast from a numbers standpoint.
Because they look at it and go, oh, it's just a small-time deal.
Yeah.
Just a potato log podcast.
That bothers me.
Right.
That is one of my hang-ups, is that people who find us initially, that's why I like Twitch. It doesn't have views and stuff on it, and you integrate it into something else. I mean, Jay makes fun of me with Twitch, but that's why I do it, is because it integrates and does different things where you put it where you want in a very complimentary secondary way. Not as, hey, here's the front door and the first thing you see, and we're going to push it out this way.
Right.
That's why I like Twitch.
And then we're trying to explain to people who are looking into advertising, no, we do have real numbers. And they look at the YouTube number and go, that's all you have.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't work. And I don't know. And again,
and it's hard to figure out numbers. We've had to get a lot of secondary programs to figure this out, because MP3 files in general are stupid. Like, it's hard to get real solid analytics on podcasts. It's like a lot of I've run into people who go, hey, we're getting this number. I'm like, well, do you pay for this? Do you pay for this? Like, no. I'm like, well, you don't have a number. It's impossible. Like, it's not. It's just, we're on 15 different platforms. I mean, it's on Spotify. It's on Google Music. It's on Stitcher. It's on all this stuff. I mean, it's everywhere. Because everybody has their favorite thing, so you've got to go to them. You got to make sure that it's available on those things wherever that is. But I don't know. I mean, podcasts are not to the top of the bell curve yet.
No.
They're still not there.
No, people are still figuring them out. But I just think people listen to podcasts when they are moving.
They are. It's workout. It's drive. It's in the morning
Walking
getting
the
ready.
dogs.
Yeah.
Yes.
The portability is number one. Period. Mobility to listen is the key to a podcast.
You've been listening to the OJ podcast,
I haven't
Kim
still.
Goldman's?
Nope.
She did the one yesterday. It was about the civil trial. It was really fascinating.
I haven't
Some of the
listened.
behind-the-scenes stuff is fascinating.
I haven't listened. It might have been her board. I'm not sure. A buddy told me about it. Bill Simmons had Kevin Costner on his BS report this week, and apparently he gives a bunch of love of the game stories.
Really?
Yeah.
I'll have to listen to that.
Yeah. Including potentially, I think, taking steroids.
Really?
I think. I have not listened, but that was the gist I got.
Billy Castle did not use steroids. God, I'm so sick.
I think he needed some help to recover and regroup because there was so much pitching and stuff during the filming of the movie.
He had a lot going on, Billy Castle.
He cleared
did.
the mechanism.
He was at the end of his career. His love interest was leaving to go to Europe.
Got some trade crap going on.
They were selling.
They wouldn't even give him a catcher he wanted.
He was going to get traded to the Giants. They didn't want him to pitch to Gus.
Oh, his name was Gus.
The manager just wanted to win one of these damn games, Billy.
You got Augie Garrido in the other dugout.
Yeah, I want to win the game too. And it's a great point. He goes, "Well, you're late. Have I ever been late? Well, there's always a first time. There's a lot there." His arm's hurting. Pitching against one of his best friends. He's having all these flashbacks in his head. There's a lot going on.
The love interest in that movie, was she a groupie?
No.
You don't
No,
think so?
and did not like the word groupie.
Yeah.
And she kept using the word groupie, and he finally
got
pissed off.
Yeah.
He goes, "That's the second time you've used that." And
But I mean, they did.
It didn't sit with me all that
quote,
well.
Fixed her car and the whole deal. Like, I know she didn't know who he was immediately. I get it.
Well, he asked her, "Do you like baseball?" And she was like, "I don't know." And so she goes to the game, and she sits in the wives section, and immediately, hey, spoiler alert, you guys, she immediately says, "I don't fit in," and she starts to leave, and
So-and-so's wife stopped.
the guy who went to end up going to the Yankees,
Yeah.
his wife's like, "No, sit down. It's okay.
It's all right.
It's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
It's okay. It's okay." And then he wants her to come down to spring training, and she won't come.
And he's in there with his masseuse.
And so he's like frustrated on a lot of different levels. And the masseuse gives him a rub down, and she instigates it.
But his heart leapt.
His heart leapt.
Yeah. His heart leapt.
Yeah, he thought, "Oh my God, this is not going to end well." And he told her this about to have a bad moment, and they did. But she had secrets too. She had a kid. He didn't even know about the kid.
How much? Billy Castle can get it done. How many players can get the team bus to go pick up the kid? Not everybody, right?
I mean,
The bullpen catcher is not getting the bus to go pick up the kid.
Mike
right?
Trout.
Mike could get the bus to move.
Absolutely. The Giants would take that bus wherever Mike said, "Hey, here's where the bus needs to go."
Angels. Them two.
Hmm?
The Angels.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who did I say?
Giants.
He could get anybody to do it.
Okay. There are a few.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Trout, probably Justin Verlander at this point could probably get the Astros bus to go.
Yeah, that's probably a very good comparison just in
Billy
general.
Castle?
Yeah. That's not the worst comparison.
Justin Verlander, whenever I watch him pitch, I think about how he wanted to be a Cub, waited to be a Cub, and then the Cubs wouldn't do it. And I think, how different would it have been if the Cubs had picked up Justin Verlander?
Instead of who?
Or just added him.
Okay.
He wanted to come.
He'd help.
A lot. Maybe another title a lot.
Watchability-wise, I still contend that might – well, no. Bull Durham is the best baseball movie that Costner did from a watchability standpoint.
Yeah.
For Love of the Game is second. Like I said, I hate Field of Dreams. I know everybody.
I don't like Field of Dreams either.
It's just too sappy.
It actually came on the other day, and I watched some of it, and I was like,
I don't watch it.
This
I
is
refuse.
bad.
No, it's just sucrose.
Yeah, just
It is
no substance at
sucrose
all.
for the sake of being sucrose.
no substance at all.
And everybody's like, well, he played catch with his dad. Well,
Yeah, I get
you're
that.
generating it. You're.
Is this heaven? No, it's
And I know I'm just a cynical punk when I'm saying this, but it doesn't do it for me.
But For Love of the Game does it for me. I could watch For Love of the Game hundreds of times.
It's my sports movie version of Cocktail, the terrible Tom Cruise movie where I just watch it and laugh. I have no real reason for it. I know it's a bad overall movie, but I just laugh.
It is. It's bad, but it's rewarding. It's fulfilling. I get done with that movie and I kind of feel good about it.
You'd rather watch that than Boyhood every day.
Damn right. Well, at the end, I mean, pitches the perfect game. Spoiler alert.
Oh, crap.
Pitches the perfect game, hangs him up, goes and gets the girl.
You say gets the girl.
And she's kind of needy, but it's okay.
Think she's a little neurotic?
She's kind of needy.
Okay.
Yeah, she needed him to say all the right things. Even when he was trying to do all the right things, she needed him to say it too. And he was trying to say it.
She wanted it to look like what she saw it in her head.
Yeah, she had this image in her head. And it's like, come on, he's trying.
Like they're at dinner and he goes, well, I've lost 218 games or whatever. And she looks at him and is like, well, I mean, that's over 20 years. Like,
Yeah. She goes, do you ever lose? He goes, yeah, I lose a lot.
Yeah. But I've won 300 and whatever, too.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
So
Billy freaking Castle.
He won a World Series.
Hell
early
yeah,
in
he
the
won a
career
World
of the Tigers,
Series.
right?
Yeah, he won a World Series.
Yeah. All right, trip down memory lane. We did Rocky earlier in the week. We'll close the week with For Love of the Game. We've talked a lot of Ole Miss. We've talked bands. So hope you enjoyed the day.
There is some basketball up on the site. I talked to Kermit Davis. I was part of a group of people that talked to Kermit Davis and Brian Tyree yesterday. I actually did talk to Brian a little bit before. He went to Chris Paul's camp, came back from there pretty motivated. I'll have more on Brian and Kermit probably in 10 Weekend Thoughts. I've got recruiting coming tomorrow. Ole Miss is having, it's not a cookout, but it's a recruiting event tomorrow. I'll have some, assume I'll have a little coverage from there. Don't know precisely what all I'll have, but I'll have something. And then for those of you who are saying, where is fall camp? Fall camp media day is Thursday. The first practice is Friday. So it's coming. Have some patience.
We will talk to you on Monday.